everyone to join us on this call. Kevin, I'm really looking forward to your presentation this afternoon. I know we have a lot of people joining us from on Facebook and all over Africa and parts of where we operate, Latin America and India and West Africa as well. So we are, as you know, we are present in more than 20 countries. And what we try to do is truly exactly what you will be doing this afternoon. As Kevin is walking away, trying to get himself ready for this session, I think it is very important just for all of us to realize that we have a really beautiful moment where we get insight for somebody who has done proper research on the subject of entrepreneurship and the counter type of an attitude that each and every one of us needs to have, in particularly if you're in entrepreneurship. So yes, as we wait for some of you guys to join in and some of our colleagues who are joining us from Facebook. So we're looking forward to having today's session. It will truly be magnificent.
Thank you, Xolela. Are we ready to go? Are we waiting for some more people, or what are we going to go for it?
Yeah, we will wait. Let's give it another 2 to 3 minutes, and then we will start. I don't want people to miss the most important and salient points of your presentation, Kevin. I hope you don't mind waiting another 2 minutes also.
No problem. Do you want to put up a picture of the book, or have you got a picture of the book to put up?
And let me just check if Shambhavi can put that up from her end. I'm unable to do it on my end because I've just decided to join on via my phone because the voice is much better than
no problem
than the computer.
Problem. Can they see, can the attendees see my face and the PowerPoint, or just the PowerPoint?
Yes, they will be able to see both.
Are they looking at both? Excellent. Well, you know what? I'll do a bit of an intro and ease slowly into it so we can wait for a couple more people to join.
Okay.
But
okay. Yes, I think we can kick off. I've been given a signal by my colleague George. He has just greeted all of us. First and foremost, let me thank everyone for attending this afternoon session. I'm hoping that we will have a lot of takeaways, and the most important and crucial part of the learning is truly what you are able to implement immediately and how you see and evolve yourself, and to give you a different perspective of a mindset. Without a further ado, let me introduce our speakers this afternoon and evening to some, and early morning to the different guys. Mr. Kevin Chaplin, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this masterclass. I know you and I have been talking about this for some time. Just a little bit background. Kevin is an entrepreneur, a self-made man himself. He has worked for a number of corporations, and he understands the value of entrepreneurship in developing countries, internationally and locally. Locally, I mean Africa, by saying locally. So he has in-depth knowledge of what it is that we, as the African nation, and obviously as entrepreneurs, need emotionally, intellectually, and the type of networks we need to have, and the type of attitude that we need to have. So Kevin, over to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Xolela. Good day, everybody. I'm really delighted to just spend this time with you. Thanks for giving up your busy day. I know there's always so much going on when you're an entrepreneur. There's so much you have to think about and do. So I'm delighted to be able to just share some of my journey with you and a little bit about my book. And hopefully it'll encourage you to get my book and read more about what I'm going to talk about this afternoon. But really, my journey is one of learning. I do believe if we're going to be successful in anything, it's about learning from others. So hopefully you'll learn a bit from me like I've learned from others, and I'll share some of the principles and values that I've experienced over my life. You might say, well, he's an entrepreneur, but he spent 26 years in banking. Oh my word, what can he teach us? Well, you know what I found, even though I had a career in banking, every job I did, I was an entrepreneur. I was entrepreneurial, and that was very important. As you know, the Heart of Entrepreneurship, there's many, many values and principles to being an entrepreneur, but one of the most important was in learning, I had to grow. And if you're going to grow, there's those three letters in the beginning, GRO, get rid of. I had to learn very early on in my life to get rid of negative influences, to get rid of all sorts of behaviors. I had to learn to say no. So I want to share some of that with you, but maybe before we even get to that, I'll just give you a bit of background. So I grew up in KwaZulu-Natal, loved it, decided to move to Gauteng in Johannesburg and spend 10 years up there. And I even found in moving from Durban to Johannesburg and then finally to Cape Town, that there were always what I call naysayers. This is not going to work, that's not going to work. And I had to very quickly realize that, yes, you listen to others, but sometimes you just got to make your own decision. And I spent 10 wonderful years in Johannesburg. I was very fortunate and blessed at an early age to be made the HR, Finance and Admin Director in Johannesburg for the national business side of the bank. And that opened up a whole new world for me. And then I was responsible for bringing two banks together, Rand Merchant Bank, FNB. I had to relook at the business. And then I decided it was time to move out of HR, and I became the Sales and Service Director in Cape Town. And I'll share a little bit about my journey there, because all through my career in banking, there were stuff that I learned that I'd like to share with you. And then I made the big bold decision to leave banking and be a real entrepreneur. I wanted to put into practice what I'd been saying is important and apply it. And so I started the South African Ubuntu Foundation and then took over a bankrupt nonprofit called the Amy Beale Foundation and built and grew it. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of that. So I hope you will enjoy just my sharing of my journey and you can learn from that. So as I said, very early on, I learned if I had to grow, I had to get rid of certain things. Growing up, it was not an easy time for me, and I had to learn to let go of the past. There were things that happened to me that I had to learn to forgive. I had to learn to forgive a father who was very cruel to me, and that's all in the book. Obviously, there's a whole section in the book of the experience I had as a child from a cruel father, and how did I learn to let go of the anger and the bitterness against this man and move on. And I did, and I learned very early on that he was the problem, not me. So many times you have to just take a look at a situation and say, wow, what's going on here? Am I the problem or not? And then stand up and be confident of who you are. I think that's very important in being an entrepreneur, to believe in yourself. So I learned that very early on. And I think my message there, especially in that part of the book, is we have to let go. If we take our past into our future, we are the losers. We have to be able to let go of the past and focus on the future and be confident and pick ourselves up. So the get rid of is very important. But I also learned in my early banking career that everything is about attitude. You know, I used to employ people not just for their skills and their qualification, but their attitude was more important than anything. because you can do so much with the right attitude. If somebody's got a negative attitude or a pessimistic attitude or a bad attitude, you can't do much with them. You can try and change them, but attitude is everything. A positive attitude, you can achieve so much with a right attitude. And I also learned very early on to choose the right people in my business. I wanted people who would make me successful. Sometimes I actually appointed people who were cleverer or better than me, but I didn't feel threatened by that, because you know what? If you choose the right people, they will make you succeed. So never feel scared in your business as an entrepreneur to choose the right people, people who are actually better than you. And I think what's important is to understand your own shortcomings and weaknesses. We can't all be good at everything we do. So sometimes you might be good at marketing, but you're very bad at keeping the books and the finances. Then you know what? Get somebody on your team that is good at that. Don't try and do it all. That's where I see many entrepreneurs fail. So I share a lot about those sort of things I learned. I go into a lot more detail, obviously, in the book. But that is my message today as well, to just surround yourself with the right people, to be honest with yourself. What are your weaknesses? What are your shortcomings? Where you need to fill the gaps, where you can bring on people who will complement you and support what you do, so that at the end of the day, because I've seen some entrepreneurs and leaders of business are very bad at HR. They're just not good people. They don't have good people skills. They're not good with people. Then bring in somebody into your team as your number two who's good with people, because there's nothing worse in a business where the staff feel they're not spoken to properly, they're not appreciated. And so I would say then that's something you need to very much look at. Have somebody on your team who makes up for your shortcomings in that. You know, so many people say, well, I'm not a good communicator. Well, then make sure you have a good communicator on your team. Make sure you have somebody who follows up with the invoices and the payments, you know, very important. Those sort of things often don't get attended to. So in addition to attitude, that's a very important one for me. Don't walk away from negative people. Run away from them. Get them out of your life. If I had listened to all the negative people, I'd tell you now, I wouldn't have left the bank. I wouldn't have moved to Joburg. I wouldn't have moved to Cape Town. I wouldn't have saved Amy Foundation from bankruptcy. There's so many things. I had to get rid of negative people. They will suck you down. Don't be at the dinner table and everybody around the dinner table saying, oh, the country's in a disaster. This is happening. No, focus on the positives. When you focus on the positives, good things come to you. When you focus on only negatives, you get sucked into all that. And it's the same in your business. If you've got somebody in your business who's always negative and pessimistic, you're never going to achieve. And then you have to have a good and honest talk to them. I also find in business, too often we're scared to be honest with each other. Look, we don't want to hurt people's feelings, but sometimes when you're honest with somebody and say, you know what, you think you're so good at this, but you're actually not. Let's talk about it. It's also the way we give a message. You know, we can either break a person down or we can build a person up. And I'll talk more about that later. So never be scared to say to a person, look, I don't want your negativity in my business or your pessimism, and try and change them. If they don't change, then get them out of your life. Get them, say to them, I can't have you in my business anymore. You know, this is not working. I think most importantly, as an entrepreneur, you have to have passion and enthusiasm. I changed in banking many years ago, our performance criteria. One of the things we added to the performance appraisals was, how much passion do you have for this business? How much enthusiasm? Because there's no ways you want people walking into your business, dragging their feet, shoulders stooped. You want people who get up in the morning and want to work for you and want to do and agree with your vision and mission. So also make sure that you have passion and enthusiasm. And when you as an entrepreneur, with all the challenges you face, when you find you're struggling to find your passion and enthusiasm, find a way to go and get it again. And I'll talk more about that later. So you can succeed at almost anything if you have unlimited enthusiasm and passion. Very important. That's what definitely helped me to achieve We turned, I share in the book how when I came to Cape Town, we turned the business around basically in 4 years. And I share all the things we did. And I'll touch on some of those later, but definitely passion and enthusiasm rubs off on others. And then people want to follow you. They want to do business with you. They want to make your business succeed. They want to buy your product. They want to use your services when they can see your passion and enthusiasm. Because at the end of the day, everything is about relationships, ladies and gentlemen. Everything I built up in turning the bank around, in building up the Ubuntu Foundation, and turning the Amy Beale Foundation into a thriving nonprofit, it was about building relationships. And it started for me in looking for mentors. And I go into quite a lot of detail in the book about how to find mentors, what are mentors important for, how they can benefit you. And obviously one of the biggest mentors is Nelson Mandela. Now, what did we learn from him? We learned that to be genuine, he was very genuine. He connected with people. He was able to connect. And that's what we all got to strive for, to connect with everybody. The other one was Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He taught me to be principled. When I first started having meetings with him about 20 years ago in his office, the first thing he did was say a prayer and open the meeting with a prayer. And that resonated with me because all my life, my faith in God has been important. But one thing I do say to you, I pray a lot, but I don't pray and sit back and wait. I get out there and I make it happen. God, for me, opens doors. He closes doors. And we've got to go and find which are the doors that are opening and closing. And we've got to work hard. We've got to really work hard. I don't believe we can just pray and sit back. Everything is about hard work. So that's what Archbishop Tutu taught me as well. But in being a leader, we all have to be leaders as entrepreneurs. I mean, an entrepreneur, you all know the definition. It's about creativity, the mindset, but tenacity is one that I've had to have. And I think we all need, tenacity is about being tough. Not when you knock down, you get up again. You go forward. Very important. But there's 3 things that I've learned that I want to share with you in helping you to be a leader as an entrepreneur. Firstly, who is the self that leads? Be honest with yourself, reflect on yourself constantly, and improve and grow and reinvent ourselves. I've always had to reinvent myself, take a look at the end of the day. Did I do as well as I thought I could have? Could I have done better? Where did I not do well? And just grow and learn from that. Very important. If we don't keep reinventing and reflecting on ourselves, it's like that age-old thing, look in the mirror. You know, do we look in the mirror and say, I'm not the mistake, it's them out there? Or do we look and see we are the problem that has to be looked at? What is my capacity for connectedness that I spoke about Nelson Mandela? We all must look at connecting with people. And if we're not good at it, how do we learn? For instance, one of the things that I find very important in the Heart of Entrepreneurship is being able to network effectively. Any business success is about networking, because when you network effectively with people, new business might not come immediately. But if you connect properly and you keep that network, many people meet others at events and networking events, but they don't follow up. Now, if you follow up and keep that contact, you never know, even in 2-3 years' time, it could lead to new business. And so networking effectively is important. Where most people fail is they don't follow up. And sometimes it's just once a year. Oh, do you remember me? I met you a year ago. How are things going? It can lead to real success in business. Many times I haven't spoken to somebody I met for a year, and that connecting email, they say, oh, I'm glad you emailed me now because I've got an opportunity and I'd forgotten about you, you see? So by keeping in touch, you will find new opportunities. And what about me allowed great mentoring today? Very important, as I spoke about reinventing oneself. So that's just the 3 parts to me that make a great leader. And then I want to share, I go into detail in the book about my mentors. Some of my mentors were Raymond Ackerman, who started one of the biggest retail chain of stores in South Africa. And I share with you a lot in the book what I learned from him as a leader of Pick n Pay. Don't have time to go into all that today. And the other one was Philip Kravitz, one of the biggest outdoor companies, Cape Union Mart. I go into a lot of detail of what I learned from him. But the one takeaway I want to just quickly share with you today, so that it's hopefully a little bit of an appetizer for you to want to read more in the book. Raymond Ackerman taught me that any successful business is like the four legs of a table. The top of the table is the customer. The customer is everything. You've got to treat that customer. They bring in the income. Whether you're a lawyer, small manufacturing business, products, whatever you do, the customer is king. But now, if any of those legs of the table are missing, or short, or not delivering properly, the table is going to collapse, right? So, what are the four legs of a table that will make your business succeed? And if one leg is missing, the first one is your admin processes and finance, which I mentioned earlier. You've got to be able to have the right processes in place. It's no good selling products and you forget to follow up on the invoice or the people don't pay. So make sure your admin is good. Your product branding and merchandising is so important. It's not what you think the customer wants. It's what does the customer need? And you have to constantly relook at how you brand yourself, how you market yourself, and what is your product. Very important. Getting the right marketing out there. So what is your third leg? Xolela, what is the third leg? Come on. Okay, I'll let you off.
I think the third leg will definitely be the people that work with you and for you in the business.
You're top, and Xolela didn't see this before. You're right. It's your staff, your people. Without those people working for you and being passionate, enthusiastic, and being upskilled, you're not going to achieve anything. The fourth leg is your customer, your corporate social responsibility. You might call it your CSR, your corporate social investment. Raymond Ackerman of Pick n Pay, when he bought his first 2 stores more than 40 years ago, he didn't wait till he made R1 million. That first month of making whatever he made, he would give a bit back to the community, because your community is everything. You don't survive in a bubble. So corporate social response, and that is for every size business, not just for corporates. As an entrepreneur, when you start giving back, God blesses you back. The more you give, the more you get back. So obviously we've got to be very careful. You can't be doing a whole lot of stuff in the community and neglecting your business. You can't be giving too much away and then you're not making profit, but you've got to give at least 10% of your profit in month 1 and month 2. And as you go forward, that's a good benchmark to work on. Just like in the Bible, tithing, give back to your community. And that's not always about money. It could be your time. You bring in some unemployed people and you allow them to learn from you. So that's a very important fourth leg of the table. And I obviously go into a bit more detail. Another important value and principle that I've learned as an entrepreneur is this word Ubuntu. Umtun gumtun gabantu. Very important. Umtun gumtun gabantu. People are people through other people. Ubuntu should be the overriding philosophy that runs your business. You shouldn't give away to the community or be nice to your staff because it's a have to. It's really an African word for a universal concept. It's something we should all strive to achieve in our business, is practicing this philosophy of Ubuntu. And I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to just run through very quickly. It's all the R's. That's what Ubuntu is. Respect for your staff, your colleagues, your clients, reconciling with others, recognizing the differences in each other, building relationships. That's all Ubuntu. Taking responsibility in our business, being reliable. If we say we're going to do something, do we actually do it? We don't want to get a reputation for being unreliable as entrepreneurs. It's got to be something that drives us to be reliable and responsible. Reinvent ourselves, we've spoken about. And Ubuntu values the good of the community above self-interest. That all ties into those 4 legs of the table. So Ubuntu is an integral part of our business. It's the potential for being human. When you You're kind to your people. Now, in business, you can't be soft. So Ubuntu is not about being soft. It's about being fair. Sometimes we have to downsize. Sometimes we have to cut costs. It's about running it as a business. So, but it's about being fair about it. If we've got to let somebody go, we do it in a dignified and human way. It strives to help people in the spirit of service. It shows respect. Honesty, very important. So those are just some of the things I wanted, and I do a whole chapter on Ubuntu and how to practically apply Ubuntu, being fair to all. I cover all that. I think there's so much to share about Ubuntu, but what applies to entrepreneurship is an Ubuntu perception of the other is never fixed. It allows others to become, and never reduces the others to any specific characteristic or conduct, and it enhances the self-realization of others. And as an entrepreneur, if you can see Ubuntu in that way, you will grow your people within your business and outside in your community and your customers. Then that your customers become your friends because you don't judge them. We must stop judging in society. And it especially regards the success of the group above that of the individual. That's Ubuntu. So as entrepreneurs, we must want the group to succeed, and it's not just about me, I, as the owner of the business or as the entrepreneur, want to make all the money. When entrepreneurs become greedy at the expense of their staff and their customers and their community, they cannot succeed. So it's also about, Ubuntu is about making sure you're not overpricing your product. Are you being greedy? Are you putting a 300% markup when actually maybe 100% markup on your product is enough to do well and then sell more? Too many people I find very greedy in terms of what they add to their markup. And ladies and gentlemen, that's some of these. I share a lot more in the book, but some of this will lead to success and significance because it is about significance and not just success. So the next part of my journey was coming to Cape Town, where everybody said to me, are you crazy? You're going to be the sales and service director, and as sales and service director, they had retrenched or retired. All the general managers, the GMs, was the old titles, and they decided to make us sales and service directors because it was more appropriate. How do we make our profitability? Through sales of our products and service of our customers. And so we bought into that, and I came as the sales and service director. But guess what? Cape Town was one of the worst performing in the country, and people laughed at me. They said, you'll never get it right. Again, remember all the naysayers, the negatives. And I thought, no ways. I'm going to show them prayer and hard work. And I even had people in my branches praying for the business to succeed. There's a saying, Jeremiah 29 in the Bible, it says, I have a plan for you, a plan to prosper, not to harm you. And I believe strongly in that. My faith is important. And we all, whether we're Christian, Jew, or Muslim, or Hindu, or Buddhist, we've got to hold on to our faith. And that was important. And it brushed off. I share a lot in the book about all the initiatives we introduced to turn the business around. And in 4 years, we turned it from worst performing to top performing. Some of it is some of the stuff I've shared with you, but I share a lot more in the book, which I shared purposely so that the reader can introduce them themselves in their business, whether it was networking, whether it was strategic sessions, whether it was making my staff feel important. So that definitely turned us around, and we did turn it around in 4 years. And then by 2005, I realized that I wanted God to use me in a bigger way. I wanted God to really take what I've learned. And so I share that the next chapter of the book is about a 1 year journey of what did God want me to go and do. And I share very honestly in the book of where I thought that was God's plan for me. And I went gung-ho for it. I applied for the job and I was convinced it was my job. And guess what? The door closed and I didn't get that job. Then the second one, oh, that's why I didn't get that job. That's God's plan for me. And I went off and I applied and the door closed. So I share all of that in detail. And then the third, I thought, no, I'm not applying for anything. I'm going to really walk the talk. I was always talking about entrepreneurship. I was talking at UCT. on the postgraduate class of entrepreneurship. So now it was my time to walk the talk. And that's when I founded the South African Ubuntu Foundation, the SA Ubuntu Foundation. I spent a year planning it. And really what the Ubuntu Foundation is it's an organization to break down the barriers between people of different color, culture, religion, and language in business and get them to truly embrace one another. So it focuses on business activities, business interventions that bring people of all different color, culture, religion, and language together. And I started that a year later. I was ready. It was a difficult time for me because I was still the leader of my business in banking in Cape Town. And here I had to very quietly build a strategic plan of my own organization. I had to still be seen to be the leader while busy putting this together. So a year later, I was ready. And I gave my boss in Joburg 3 months notice, and I started the Ubuntu Foundation. And yeah, it's activities like business networking sessions, various workshops that I do, and I share a bit more about that in the book. But guess what? God had a plan, because 3 months after starting that and leaving banking, and again, I must tell you, you cannot believe how many people, are you crazy? You can't leave this top job. What? You're never going to succeed. You cannot believe how many people, you're not going to make it. You were successful because you were the sales and service director, and then I was the provincial manager. So now once you're on your own, oh, you're going to find everybody will desert you and you won't get, and I proved them wrong, because with the right attitude that I spoke about, the passion, the enthusiasm, the relationships that I'd formed, the strong relationships, the tenacity that I had, that ensured I was successful. People supported me, whether it was Raymond Ackerman of Pick n Pay, Philip Kravitz of Cape Union Mark, Arthur Gillis of the Protea Hotel Group, Glenn Hennick of the Crazy Stores Group, you name it. They stood by me and supported me, and I was able to prove all the naysayers wrong. With those values and principles and confidence in myself, I was able to persevere. It was tough. It was daunting because I always had a big team. And now from day one, it was just Kevin Chaplin running his own organization, the South African Ubuntu Foundation. But 3 months later, the Amy Beale Foundation went bankrupt. And that changed the whole course of my life. Amy Beale was a young girl who fell in love with South Africa and Africa in 1992. She saw Nelson Mandela had come out of jail, and she just wanted, she was 25 years old at the time, and she wanted to come to South Africa and help build this democracy. And so she arrived on a one-year Fulbright scholarship. And she worked with Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, Dalla Omar, various leaders of the ANC at UWC, University of the Western Cape. And she helped write South Africa's constitution. She was a big part of writing the constitution. And 2 days before her one-year scholarship or her one-year time in South Africa was up, there was a peaceful political rally going on in Cape Town. There was still the height of apartheid. There was a lot of tension. And the police broke up a peaceful political rally of the PAC. Amy didn't know this. And she was driving two of her black friends home because they'd been stranded by their taxi. And she drove them into the township. But by now, a mob had formed. And this mob walking down the street saw Amy. And they got mad and angry and out of control. And they killed her. She died there in Gugulethu, the township of Gugulethu. 4 boys went to jail for her death. They were only 18 years old at the time. And they were sentenced to 20 years in jail. In 1997, Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela formed the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And that was a powerful process to heal the wounds of the past, to bring the victims and the offenders together. And they asked the parents of Amy to come out from America and meet the 4 boys. And they got a lot of hate mail in the US. How dare you go to that country that killed your daughter? But they came knowing that Amy would have wanted them to meet them. And once they met the 4 boys, they realized that these 4 boys were they were not murderers. So they forgave them for the death of their daughter. It changed the course of politics in South Africa, because now black people started saying, not all white people are racist. Amy was fighting for us. She was helping educate people for the elections. She shouldn't have died. And so people started re-looking at things. And when the parents forgave these 4 boys, that was a big turning point. The 4 boys were released from jail after 5 years, thanks to the parents of Amy. And 2 of the 4 boys were so humbled by this act of forgiveness that they actually reached out to the parents. And they said, we're so humbled by your act of forgiveness that we would like to dedicate our lives to the youth. And that's how the Amy Beale Foundation started. And I don't have time to go into a lot of detail today, but I do go into a lot of detail in the book about Ntobeko, his time in the PAC, his growing up during apartheid, his feelings once he was forgiven, and Easy, the other one. So those 2 boys I've worked with now for the last 14 years, since 2006, and I am blessed and enriched to work with these 2 boys. And if it wasn't for that act of forgiveness, I wouldn't be heading up the Amy Foundation, and I wouldn't have met them, and I wouldn't have changed thousands of children and youth's lives since 2006. So what happened was, Ntobeko and Easy, with the parents in 1998, started the foundation and started working with youth. By 2001, sadly, the father had died of cancer and had no medical insurance. And that led to disaster, because by 2006, when I took over, there was no money left in the foundation. Amy's mother appointed an ex-headmaster of a school to run the foundation, but nobody taught him how to run a business, how to take something, make sure you look at your income. And they relied on one donor. Just like it, as an entrepreneur, you must never rely on one customer. If a customer is giving you 80 to 90% of your income, you better look for other sources of customers, because they can, all of a sudden, that customer is gone, and then 90% of your income is gone. And that's what happened to the Amy Beale Foundation. The father died. The new person didn't know how to raise money, bring it in, and the money came to an end in 2006. And so the mother came to close it down. And I happened, luckily I met her and I said, but you can't close such a good organization. They're doing so much good. She said, well, then you need to take it over. So I agreed with her that I'd run both. I think sometimes entrepreneurs are not normal people. We take on a lot. We go through stress. And I decided that I'd run the Ubuntu Foundation and the Amy Foundation. We changed it from Amy Beale Foundation about 6 years ago to Amy Foundation, because most people thought, oh, well, just get money from America or the parents. And that wasn't the case. So we rebranded ourselves totally to the Amy Foundation. We call it the Amy Foundation Changing Lives, on the legacy of forgiveness and Amy Foundation. And daily we are changing lives. I'm proud to tell you that we do after school programs. We give life skills to these youngsters, but we also create employment. The last one on the list you see is youth skills development. We train youth 18 to 35. They choose hospitality, sewing, craft and design, technical and handyman skills, beauty and wellness, retail readiness, entrepreneurship. We've started little businesses. We've placed 903 students in employment. But I just wanted to share that with you, because anything is possible. Everybody said to us, Kevin, you crazy. Why are you taking over the Amy Beale Foundation? They bankrupt. Just let them close. You cannot believe how many people tried to make me not do it. So the other thing I want to share with you is we managed to do it. We grew it. I go into detail in the book about how we took Amy Foundation from basically bankruptcy to where it is now, 903 students placed in employment. I share with you the challenges I faced. By 2014, for instance, our landlord gave us 1 month's notice to move out. Now, we could go the legal route and challenge, but it didn't help. Everybody in 2014 said, Kevin, close the Amy Foundation down. You don't have premises. You're never going to find premises. But guess what? Through prayer and hard work, tenacity, I did it. I decided there's no ways I'm letting it close. And I share, there's a whole chapter in the book about how I found new premises, and it led to a whole new opportunity where I could build a youth skills center. So that challenge, I turned around into an opportunity. And that, I think, is important as entrepreneurs. You turn your challenges into opportunities. And I share in detail how we turned that into a budding youth skills center. Cost me 8.6 million rand. Again, people said, are you mad? Where are you going to find it? Guess what? In 1 year, we were able to pay it off. In 15 months, actually. And I built a youth skills center with 8 classrooms, student accommodation for volunteers, a bistro for practical experience, a conference center, and I share a lot of detail, but it's all about hard work, tenacity. Relationships played a big role. There's no ways I could have raised that 8.6 million without the strong relationships, the honesty, the people supporting me. And then I was ready to publish the book in 2018, and another challenge came my way, a huge challenge where I had to go to court. I had to go the legal route, and I share there's 20 lessons I learned in chapter 21 that hopefully you'll all learn and be able to. I don't have time. It's already 20 to 3, and I know we want to have Q&A, and Xolela is going to start telling me to stop talking. But that was another significant challenge that, again, that happened in end of 2018. People said, Kevin, just close this foundation now. It's not going to work. And 4 or 5 months later, I was able to turn it around. And now people say, wow, thank goodness you didn't. So I share those 20 lessons with you in the book that I learned that made us sustainable, because your business has to be sustainable. So now I'm going to quickly go on to something that I share in the book in detail that I want to end off with. The word watch. If you forget everything I've taught you this afternoon, if you remember the word watch, W-A-T-C-H. Watch the words that come out of your mouth. They can build a person up or break a person down. And I'll go into more detail about that. Watch your attitude. I've spoken about attitude. T. Watch your thoughts. Have thoughts that lead to action. Too many entrepreneurs say, oh, but I had that idea and somebody else, well, then you didn't act fast enough. So watch your thoughts. Have positive thoughts that lead to action. Implement. Watch the company you keep. As an entrepreneur, there's going to be days you're depressed. The challenges are too big. You can't get the finance. How do you do this? The business. Keep a positive group around you. People you can go to. Mentors. Supporters. People you can open up to. Watch the company you keep. Have positive people. And the last one is watch your heart. Have a giving heart. I spoke about CSR, CSI, giving back to the community. Giving of yourself, sharing, being mentors to others, helping other people when you're successful. And then very important, and I go into a lot of detail about this in the book, there's 4 quadrants I believe in. You have to be able to manage the spiritual side of your life, is the SQ. The EQ is the emotional intelligence side, being confident of who you are, building your emotional intelligence. Your IQ, upskilling yourself, studying, reading, updating yourself. And then the last one is the physical side of your life. If you can't, I find when I exercise, I go into a lot of detail about the type of foods we should eat to keep healthy, the type of exercise, but physical exercise and physical being is very important. Those are the 4 parts, and I go into a lot of detail about that. And I think very much my message is live a life that matters. Whatever business you're in as an entrepreneur, ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There'll be no more sunrises, minutes, hours, or days. All the things you've collected will be gone. Everything will shrivel to irrelevance. What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. Not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity as a business person. compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. Not your competence, but your character as a business person. Not how many people you knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when you're gone. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but a matter of choice. So my message is live a life that matters. And especially those that are making a difference to society and the environment will be the new leaders of the 21st century. So in ending, ladies and gentlemen, mine has been a journey of leadership, of growth, of perseverance, connecting, Ubuntu. And I'm hoping that just some of these values and principles that I've shared with you will help you. Because really, as an entrepreneur, it is about self-confidence, self-belief, seeing the opportunity and willing to take a risk. I had to take many calculated risks, which I share in the book, of how we, built the Youth Skills Center, saved a bankrupt organization, turned the banking world from bottom to top, all of that. Being a good listener. I had to listen many times. Sometimes my staff, because I appointed the right people around me, and I respected them, they would tell me, hang on, I don't think you're making the right decision, or have you thought of this? Very important. So sometimes I've had to be a good listener, understand finance. You can't succeed if you don't know how to bring in the sales, the income, the costs. So ask yourself again, am I an entrepreneur? And if you say no, then just fix it. Find the answer to say yes. Nike did it. They said, just do it. That's I would love you to read my book, Can Do, Making the Impossible Possible, and you will get something out of it. That was my purpose of writing the book, of sharing everything I've learned with the reader and being honest and in an easily understandable English. So look in the mirror, talk to yourself, know that all of us can be an entrepreneur, whatever business we want to do. So that's me, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's time to allow some Q&A, Xolela.
Yes, Kevin, thank you so much. I loved your presentation. Particularly, I think when people think of entrepreneurs, they think people with an easy path. That's number one. Number two, people who may have had an easy journey. The third part that particularly has somebody who has a context of South Africa, somebody with offers different race and flags, they would think differently in terms of what challenges you may have encountered. Yet, as you are telling the story, I'm picking up so much of either what I've went through or what I know my fellow entrepreneurs have gone through themselves and so forth. So this has been truly an eye-opening in terms of a mindset of what we need and the liberty of courage that we need to have and the zeal to actually pursue entrepreneurship. Look, I'm open for questions, but while I saw there was one question on the chat box.
Come on, everybody. Please place some questions on the Q&A. I want to at least have 2 or 3 questions.
Yeah, I know. I remember I'm on Facebook, so I'm taking some from Facebook as well. There's one from Facebook. But how do you manage relationships, particularly if you have, I'm trying to read it correctly, if you have you had a corporate career into now transitioning into entrepreneurship?
So the question is, how do I manage the relationships from a corporate career to
the transition, the relationship, the business relationships? I'm imagining that's what the question is. How did you manage the business relationship transition from corporate to entrepreneurship?
So it's the same philosophy. Even though you're in a big corporate, you've got to look after your customers. And even as an entrepreneur, every customer is important. So for me, that's what I did from day one. I rebuilt those relationships. I met new customers. I connected with them. You lose your customers very fast if you don't connect with them. Show them that you care. You're genuine with them. Obviously that they must get a good service. Follow up is very important. I've always believed it's no good making a promise to a customer and then you don't follow up. You'll lose that customer very quickly. You have to follow up. So managing those relationships has always been very important. There's so many facets to managing a relationship. It's making every customer feel like they are king, and showing them that everybody in your team, and making your whole team know that relationships are important. It's no good you as the entrepreneur managing, and even if you've got 2 people working for you, or 10 or 30 or 50, every one of them has to believe in relationships. So it's about you getting your staff to believe in relationships, to build relationships, and then keep in touch and connect. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, you did. I think you did. Certainly, I was not the one answering the question. Hopefully, you did. We have another question that says, how difficult was it for you to rebuild the foundation, and how did you go about it? So I'm assuming that they are referring to MA Foundation, not Ubuntu Foundation.
Thanks for that question. And I do go, I go into a lot of detail about that, because there's so many facets to it. But it really, I had to be tough in the beginning. I had to start small. I had to make some tough decisions, and sometimes they weren't always the best decision in hindsight. But I had to take small steps and rebuild it. So start small, then build the next step, the next step, the next step. Get people on board with me who believed in our vision and mission, and then get the relationships that I needed for people to support me, whether it was donors, because we also then made the strategic decision that we don't want to just be asking for donations all the time. We wanted to bring in our own income. So we started making our own products to sell as an NPO. Obviously, I believe as an NPO, it's about running it like a business. So, you know, we looked at the costs, we were realistic, we cut costs, and then we looked at our income. So it was all about keeping our costs low, bringing in different income, varied sources of income, working hard on that, and having, like I said, the 4 legs of the table, our admin and processes, and just step by step having focus. Focus is very important. Where do we want to go? What is the next step? And just slowly building it to what we've got now as a thriving, big organization.
Oh, wow. That's great. We have a question from George, and I think most people will be interested in this answer as well. George says, please share with us how entrepreneurs can acquire startup capital in Southern Africa.
So it's not easy, but there are many organizations. And I think if you Google, you know, like places like CEDA and various government organizations, they are really trying to help with startup capital. There's a lot of corporates now that are focusing on where can we give grants to young entrepreneurs, to startup businesses. I don't have all the answers at my fingertips on that, but I would say you must Google accessing capital as an entrepreneur, and many of these organizations will come up. Business Partners, for instance, there's an organization called Business Partners. I know they don't only give startup capital, they give advice and guidance. CEDA, as I said, government organizations. So I would say just Google and find as many organizations, but definitely start with Business Partners and CEDA and government, and then approach corporates and other businesses who are all wanting to see us reduce our unemployment rate. And I think there's an understanding from many corporates and businesses. Let's give a little bit back and help start other entrepreneurs. So don't be shy to approach, find yourself a mentor, look at what businesses are succeeding, approach these businesses and share your strategic plan, and with a bit of tenacity and overcoming challenges, you will get that capital. Don't give up. I know sometimes it's easier said than done. I've tried 10 places for funding, but you know what? The 11th one can work.
Absolutely. We are actually partners with CEDA as well in trying to resource and capacitate early startup entrepreneurs, maybe not necessarily in financing them, but the education component of it, I can say with confidence that they are committed to assisting entrepreneurs throughout. I am a beneficiary, not to steal the platform, but I'm a beneficiary of business partners. One of my businesses, I've had a couple of businesses as well. One of them was actually financed for more than 13 million rand by business partners. And well, obviously, I paid it back within 4 years, that kind of money. We have, so I'm trying to attest to what the advice that Karen was just giving. The platforms and opportunities of being funded, if you have a validated business, of which what we as Heart of Entrepreneurship Foundation are trying to accomplish to give you that start in terms of validating your business so that it is fundable if you need funding. But there's something that's called also bootstrapping that I would urge you to try, Mr. Anonymous. We have another question here. Hopefully I can read it right. What would you advise a person who wants to start an NGO? And also, where can we get the book? Good question.
Thank you for that question. So first of all, don't try and reinvent the wheel. There are so many NGOs in Africa and South Africa. I think it's over 100,000. Don't start a new one. Rather find an NGO that's working well and partner with them and get involved with them, whatever sort of focus you want, whether it's, you know, youth skills development or abuse of women or orphanages or, you know, trafficking or whatever the case, whatever your heart leads you to want to start, rather find another NGO that's working well and work with them. That's my best advice. If you really do want to start your own NGO, then chat to other NGOs who are successful and get some advice from them. And some of the advice is what I've given you today, even as an NGO. You know, run it like a business. Make sure your systems, your processes, the 4 legs of the table are in place, and start small and just take each step if you really do want. So that's my answer to that. Obviously, we don't have a lot of time. I could go into more detail. And then, thank you. Yes, where can you get the book? Because that's what God has placed on my heart. Let's get this book to every single reader out there. You can get it in any bookshop in South Africa, Exclusive Books, Bargain Books, the airport shops. Come Books has just accepted the book. It'll be on the shelves in Come Books in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited about that. The main sales are obviously through Exclusive Books and Bargain Books, but more importantly, you can get it off our website. You can place an order on www.saubuntu.co.za. You can just put even if you go into Google and put can do, making the impossible possible, or Kevin Chaplin book, there'll be a link there that you can go straight and order the book. Maybe, Xolela, we could, you've got everybody who registered today. Could we send out the link to everybody by email and then
absolutely, I'll do that.
Because what I will do, those who would like to order it direct from me, in the bookstores, it's 350 Rand. But if you order it through me, and if you're one of them from Wadini, you get it at 300 Rand. And that includes free shipping. So even if you're in East Africa, if you're in another country, I'll ship it to you for free. I won't charge you any shipping. And all you pay is 300 Rand, and you can pay with your credit card. So I send you that, you get a link where you click on it, you input your credit card. I mean, I've shipped books to Tsenin in Limpopo, or in Mpumalanga, in UK, in US, in Holland. I would love to have some orders from the rest of Africa and from the rest of South Africa. So if you're okay, Xolela, we'll send an email with the link to place an order, and you can Google it on Google and go into www.saubuntu.co.za. So I would love you all to read the book. Please, let's get those orders flowing.
Yeah, fantastic. Listen, thank you for your question, because I think you and I share a lot. I can tell by the type of questions that you've asked. Koso just asked, how can you advise an entrepreneur who is currently lost or lost away, I guess, blacklisted and trying to rebuild himself? I think literally this is why we have this session today, because we understand very much so through the pandemic, a lot of people are going to find themselves in debt and really lost, and even their businesses that they have started are now flailing. They really don't know where to begin to pick up the pieces. Yeah, what would, sorry, I'm going on because I get what he's asking.
So my first question is, don't give up. Don't get disheartened. This is happening all around the world now. Go and find yourself a good mentor. Approach people and be honest with them. Never be scared to be honest. This is what's happening. I'm blacklisted. I'm failing. Share with them. And if the first person says, oh no, I'm too busy to help you, whatever, go to the second person. You'll eventually find somebody in your community or in your circle who will be willing to help you. Be genuine about it. Be honest with them. Build that relationship, and then you will get that advice and guidance. If you're blacklisted, explain to your bank what's going on. Try and find other sources of seed capital, but don't give up. You might have to refocus. Maybe in the interim, until things pick up, try and do something differently to earn some income. But just be creative, be innovative. Try and pull other people in to help you, and don't be shy to be honest and share. I'm struggling, I'm battling, I'm not coping, this is happening. And as I say, you might have to go to 1, 2, 3, or 4 other people before you find the right person who helps you. But that's the best advice I can give, not knowing the situation.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kevin, for that insight. I think we all can relate to what Talikolo had said. Jonathan, thank you for your comment. We really appreciate it. And I think what you just hit the nail on the head in terms of what Kevin's session was all about today. Just my parting words before I give over to Kevin to give his closing remarks. You spoke about how people need to focus on customer growth and really keep the customer as a center and be it and all of any business. So as an entrepreneur, how do you do that without sacrificing the opportunity where you could perhaps scale up? You know, when we're trying to scale up, we tend to neglect a certain part of our business. Generally, it doesn't matter which part of our business we neglect, the customer ends up suffering. So how do you make sure that that's the center?
Don't go too big too quickly. Just be realistic. You know, sometimes it's better to keep the customer happy and rather forego certain opportunities so that you become sustainable, that your base is strong. So I would say just be careful not to try and grow too quickly, try and take on too many opportunities. Always remember to keep the customer in your mind so that you don't neglect them, and to focus on all parts of your business, those 4 legs of the table, to constantly remind yourself, am I constantly every night reflect, reinvent, should I have gone this route? If I go that route, what will suffer in the business? And talk about it. Find people who you can talk to and get advice from always. Never be shy to ask for advice.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that. Okay, last but not least, I would like to thank everyone for attending and taking time out this afternoon. I know have gone over a little bit of time, so I thank you and I appreciate you attending the session. And I'm hoping that we've all have learned as much as we could, because I liked how personal Kevin's story is, and using a careless word here, where because he bare himself naked in front of us in terms of his character, his ethics, how he went about business, and how he actually built on failure and not looked at it as it. One of the key things that he actually said to us that I love was how to nurture uh, the business and ensuring that um, the customer is at the center of it. That is very key to that is very key, and I totally agree with him. So entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, those who thought they were flailing and failing, it's part of the journey. You're not gonna succeed day one. You may have to fail 1,000 times more from this day onwards, but don't give up. I think the message of what Kevin had shared with us is really not giving up. Whether you believe on God, as Kevin had mentioned, whether you believe on God or not, I don't think what his message was just biblical in the sense, but you need to believe in something greater, and you need to believe that you are serving a greater cause more than just an income from your business. Kevin, over to you, your parting words, and we are saying good afternoon and good evening to everyone.
Thank you. So all I can say is, remember, you can do it, can do, and you can make the impossible possible. Believe in yourself. Every day get up and know that you were created to achieve. When you feel down, remember some of the things. Remember the word watch I told you about. Remember the 4 quadrants, and just go out there and don't give up. Just persevere and make it happen. Good luck. And if anybody wants to email me, they're welcome to. It's kevin@amyfoundation.co.za or kchaplin@saubuntu.co.za. But maybe, Xolela, when we send out the link for ordering the book, we could put my email address, and I'm willing to. I don't have all the answers, but hopefully from my book, you can learn a lot. And hopefully from today, just you can learn to not give up. It's not easy. It's challenging, but you can overcome if you look at some of these.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin. It was such a humbling pleasure
Thank you for this.
to learn from you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and good afternoon and good evening to all of you. Take care. Wow.